Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into UiPath, a company that's really been shaping business automation for, well, quite a while now.
It really has. And it's got this fascinating origin story. Not Silicon Valley, but Bucharest, Romania,
Yeah.
way back in 2005.
Right, started as Deskover, I think.
Exactly, a development firm. But then around 2013, they pivoted hard, focused entirely on robotic process automation, RPA. And that wave took them all the way to a huge IPO in the US, NYSE in 2021. They really cornered the market on automating those repetitive rules-based tasks.
Yeah, they perfected that deterministic bot, didn't they? The one that just clicks and types exactly what you tell it to, super reliably.
Precisely. But now we hit the core issue, the reason we're doing this deep dive. With generative AI just exploding everywhere, systems that can actually reason, plan, adapt.
Does that old school rules-based robot suddenly look like a dinosaur?
Or, and this is UiPath's big bet, is that reliable robot actually the foundation you need, the trusted bedrock for this next wave of AI in the enterprise?
That's the central question. Our sources are pretty clear. UiPath isn't just sitting back. They're actively trying to reposition RPA.
Absolutely. They're pushing it as the secure, predictable execution layer for AI. They're talking about moving beyond RPA into something they call agentic automation.
Okay, so that's our mission today. We need to unpack exactly what agentic automation really means on the ground.
Yeah, we need to look at the new pieces of their platform, things like Maestro for orchestration, data fabric for giving AI the right context.
And we have to look at the numbers, their latest financials, Q2 fiscal 26 results, see how healthy they really are.
And critically, size them up against the competition. Because this enterprise AI space, it's moving incredibly fast, and the stakes are sky high.
All right, let's start with the foundation, because you can't really understand this agentic future without knowing the RPA past it's built on.
Good call.
So for anyone maybe less familiar, before AI agents were really in the picture, UiPath had this core set of tools, often called the RPA Trinity. What were those key components?
Right, it was a neat end-to-end structure. First, you had UiPath Studio, that was the visual designer, where you actually built the automation workflows, drag and drop, that kind of thing.
Okay, the building block.
Then you had the UiPath robots themselves. That's the engine, right? The piece of software that actually runs on a machine and does the clicking, the typing, the worker bot.
Got it.
And finally, tying it all together, you had UiPath Orchestrator. That was the command center. Scheduling bots, deploying them across maybe thousands of computers, monitoring how they were doing.
So that original Trinity, it was all about doing things based on very strict, predefined rules. Click here, copy this, paste that.
Exactly. Deterministic. Predictable.
Now, this pivot, it introduces a whole new layer. Using AI for the fuzzy stuff, the unstructured problems.
Yeah.
UiPath calls it agentic automation. Is this just like sticking ChatGPT onto a robot? Or is it deeper?
Oh, it's much deeper than that. It's really about integrating two kinds of intelligence on one platform. So you have the AI agents. These are the parts that handle the thinking, the planning, the stuff where the outcome isn't always certain. Non-deterministic decisions.
Okay, the brains, perhaps?
Sort of. And they work alongside those existing RPA robots. The ones that are still great at reliably executing specific rules-based tasks. Like, updating a field in SAP or sending a standard email.
Right.
And crucially, the human stays in the loop. People are still needed for oversight, strategic direction, handling the really tricky exceptions.
I remember seeing a quote from the CEO, Daniel Dines, that really summed it up nicely. Something about the division of labor.
Yeah, that's the one. Agents think, robots do, and people lead. It's simple, but it captures the whole philosophy.
And that structure directly addresses the biggest enterprise fear about AI, right? The trust issue.
Exactly. Because if an agent just thinks and plans, its output can be unpredictable. You can't guarantee it. But if a deterministic robot takes the final action based on that plan...
then the action itself is reliable, auditable, controlled.
Precisely. And the human leads by setting the goal and checking the results. It builds in those guardrails.
Sounds good conceptually. But integrating a thinking AI with a doing robot? That sounds technically challenging. How does UiPath actually structure this on their platform? You mentioned layers.
Yeah, they've laid out this 4-layer architecture. At the very top, you have the processes layer. Think of this as the strategic overview level.
Okay.
What happens there? This is where you manage the whole thing. Agentic orchestration lives here alongside traditional business process management, or BPM.
Which is about optimizing workflows.
Right. And also process intelligence tools, the things that help you figure out what you should automate in the first place. This layer basically decides what needs doing.
Okay, strategy first, then you made down to.
The workflows layer. This is where the building happens. You design both the agentic workflows, the thinking parts, and the robotic workflows, the doing parts.
And the human element.
Critical here, too. This layer defines the human-in-the-loop steps. Where does a person need to approve something? Where do they handle an exception? And, importantly, it includes agent evaluation tools.
To check if the AI is doing its job properly.
Exactly. Quality control for the thinking process.
Got it. So strategy, workflow design, then the actual work gets done at the next layer.
That's the activities layer. This
Yeah.
is where the rubber meets the road. You have agentic activities, where the AI figures out the path. You have the RPA and API execution, where the robots run that path.
And things like user forms.
Yep. Forms, apps for interaction. And a really key piece here is intelligent document processing, or IDP. That's crucial for pulling information out of all that messy, unstructured data enterprises have.
Okay, so that handles things like reading invoices or emails.
Right. And finally, underpinning this whole structure, the layer that makes enterprises actually comfortable using it.
The foundation.
The foundation layer, absolutely critical. This is where all the essential non-negotiable stuff lives. Security, governance, making sure data and APIs integrate properly.
AI trust mechanisms.
Yes, ensuring the AI is used responsibly, providing the right context, the right models. And it supports both low-code for citizen developers and pro-code for the hardcore engineers. Without that solid foundation, the whole agentic idea just wouldn't fly in a large company.
That structure makes sense. A clear hierarchy. Let's move into section 2 now and really decode some of the specific tools UiPath has built for this, starting with that key orchestration piece. UiPath Maestro.
Right, Maestro. Think of it as the evolution of the old orchestrator. Orchestrator managed robots. Maestro manages the whole ensemble. AI, robots, and humans.
So it's the conductor.
Exactly. The biggest fear customers express about AI is losing control. They want transparency. Maestro is designed to provide that. It coordinates that complex handoff between an AI agent's plan, which might be fuzzy, and a robot's action, which needs to be precise.
Managing errors, bringing humans in when needed.
All of that. It's the central nervous system ensuring everything works together smoothly and safely.
That sounds like a tough job. Coordinating deterministic and non-deterministic parts. Do we have a concrete example of Maestro in action?
We do. A really good one from a major U.S. healthcare provider. They were piloting Maestro for their accounts payable process.
Okay, AP. Always complex. What was the challenge?
Just the sheer volume and variety of supplier communications coming in. Emails, attachments, invoices. It was overwhelming the human team.
So how did Maestro help?
Well, they deployed AI agents first to handle the cognitive load. These agents monitor the inbox, pull out key info from emails and documents, check internal systems for status updates, and even draft replies to the suppliers.
Okay, the thinking part.
Right. Then the deterministic robots take over for the doing, processing the actual invoices, sending out standard email templates, updating the transaction status in their SAT system. Things that need to be done exactly right every time.
And the humans, what do they fit?
They step in only for the exceptions, the really unusual cases, or to give final approval on a drafted reply before it goes out. Maestro manages that whole flow, ensuring the agent's thinking gets reviewed and then executed reliably by the robot.
And the results, what was the impact?
Pretty dramatic. They saw a 60% reduction in manual effort needed for that process. And they cut the end-to-end processing time by up to 75%.
Wow, okay, that's a tangible benefit. 60% less manual work, 75% faster. That's connecting the tech directly to business value.
Absolutely. It shows how orchestration makes the whole agentic concept practical.
So if Maestro is conducting, you still need tools to help people write the automation music easily. That brings us to AI Autopilot. How does that fit in?
AI Autopilot, which they launched in 2024, is all about lowering the barrier to creating automation. It's essentially a generative AI assistant for building automations.
So instead of complex drag and drop in Studio,
You can just use natural language. Tell Autopilot what you want the automation to do in plain English. Extract data from this invoice type and enter it into that system. And it generates the workflow, even the underlying code snippets.
that sounds like a potential game changer, especially for getting business users, not just developers, involved in automating their own work.
Exactly. It democratizes automation building, but it also helps experienced developers. It can automatically generate test cases, suggest improvements. It streamlines the whole process.
And the speed benefit, is it noticeable?
UiPath claims it can cut the overall development time for new automations by up to 50%.
50%. That's huge in the enterprise world. Time to value is everything.
It really is. Having development time means getting the benefits of automation much, much faster.
Okay, so we have easier building with Autopilot, better orchestration with Maestro, but the sources really hammer home this point. AI is only as smart as the data it can access.
Absolutely fundamental.
Mm.
If your data is locked away in silos, or if the AI can't access it securely, or if the data quality is poor, the agent's thinking will be flawed. Garbage in, garbage out, amplified by AI.
This leads us to another major piece, UiPath Data Fabric. What problem is this designed to solve?
It tackles that core data challenge head-on. Think about a big company. Data's everywhere. SAP, Salesforce, Snowflake, custom databases, old legacy systems.
It's a total mess, usually.
Right. Data Fabric aims to create a unified, secure layer over all of that complexity. A single place for agents and workflows to get the trusted data they need without having to connect to dozens of different systems individually.
And the key innovation here seems to be the zero-copy architecture. Why is avoiding copying data such a big deal?
Because the traditional way ETL, extract, transform, load is a nightmare. You have to physically copy data from source systems, clean it up, move it to a data warehouse.
Creating multiple versions, delays.
Exactly. It introduces latency. The data in the warehouse is always slightly out of date. It's incredibly expensive and time-consuming to build and maintain those data pipelines. And crucially, it creates huge security and compliance headaches. Every copy of sensitive data is another potential breach point.
Especially with things like PII or financial data.
Definitely. Zero copy changes that. Data Fabric is designed to access data directly from the source systems, SAP, Workday, whatever, in real time, without physically migrating or duplicating it.
So no latency.
Minimal latency.
Yeah.
And you cut out all the cost and complexity of ETL. Plus, security is massively improved because you're enforcing governance at the original source, not on multiple copies. The AI gets the freshest, most secure data possible.
And governance is built right in. That must be key for regulated industries.
Non-negotiable. Data Fabric provides very fine-grained controls. We're talking row-level, even field-level access controls across different data sources.
Meaning Agent A in HR sees only certain employee fields, while Agent B in finance sees only relevant transaction fields.
Precisely that level of granularity. It makes data usage auditable and secure. Plus, they're using Autopilot's natural language smarts here too, letting users model data relationships just by describing them, which simplifies another traditionally complex task.
Okay, Data Fabric handles the structured stuff, the database records or the transaction logs, but we know most enterprise data, maybe 80%, is unstructured. Emails, PDFs, contracts, notes. How does UiPath tap into that value?
That's where IXP, Intelligent Document Processing, comes in. This isn't just basic OCR. It's much more advanced AI for understanding documents. It hit general availability in Q2 FY26, so it's a mature offering now.
What kind of complex documents can it handle?
We're talking high complexity, extracting accurate data from handwritten forms, which is notoriously difficult. Understanding the structure and context in really long documents, like 100-plus page legal contracts.
And pulling out meaning, not just text.
Exactly. Extracting intent or specific data points from emails, support tickets, things like that. It's about understanding the meaning within the document, not just reading the words.
Is there a customer example showing the power of this?
Yeah, Corona Sajuba Solutions. They handle healthcare revenue cycle management. They used IXP to automate data extraction from over 20 million pages of documents.
20 million, that's incredible volume.
Huge. And the key metric wasn't just speed, it was accuracy. The IXP automation led to a 35% reduction in data entry errors.
35% fewer errors across 20 million pages. The impact on compliance, on revenue must be massive.
Absolutely. And now Coronis is taking it further, using Agent Builder and Maestro to automate even more complex tasks like processing insurance claim denials based on the data IXP extracts. It shows how these components build on each other.
That's powerful. Now, one more piece in this toolkit section. This whole agentic shift can't just be for business users using low-code tools. What about the professional developers, the engineers? How does UiPath cater to the pro-code crowd?
That's a really important strategic angle. They've launched the Coded Agents initiative specifically for this group. It allows developers to build, customize, and deploy agents using Python.
Python, okay. The language of choice for a lot of AML work.
Exactly. And crucially, they're not trying to lock developers into a proprietary framework here. They're embracing the open source ecosystem.
How so?
These coded agents can be built using popular open source libraries that many developers already know and use, like LangChain and Lawman Index.
Ah, so developers leverage familiar tools.
But instead of deploying those agents in some potentially insecure standalone way, They deploy them within the secure, governed UiPath environment. They get the flexibility of open source combined with the enterprise-grade security, orchestration, and monitoring provided by Maestro and the platform.
Best of both worlds, potentially. Is there an example of this coded agent approach?
Yes, Cato Networks, a security company. They're piloting a master IT support agent built using this framework.
An AI handling IT tickets.
Right. The goal is for this single custom-built coded agent to autonomously resolve up to 30% of their internal IT support tickets. That moves way beyond simple task automation into actually solving complex internal problems and freeing up human IT staff. 30% of tickets, that's significant internal value. Okay, we've covered the tech stack, the new tools. Let's shift now to Section 3, the competitive landscape. Who are they up against and what are their advantages? Well, the market itself is huge. The traditional RPA slice is maybe $22 billion by 2025. But the broader intelligent automation market UiPath is targeting now. Gartner puts that total addressable market, the TAM, at over $93 billion a year. $93 billion. Okay, that explains the big strategic push. Who are the main players fighting for that prize? You've still got the classic RPA competitors, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, although Blue Prism is now part of SS&C Technologies, which might change their focus a bit. Datamatics is also in the mix.
But the real elephant in the room
has to be the big platform players, especially Microsoft Power Automate. Microsoft's reach is just unparalleled. They're already embedded in so many enterprises through Office 365, Azure. Power Automate often looks like a free or low-cost add-on for companies already deep in the Microsoft ecosystem. That's a massive competitive pressure.
So, against that kind of competition, how does UiPath differentiate? What are their strategic moats, the things that keep customers locked in?
They seem to have three main ones. First is the end-to-end platform. Unlike some competitors who might just do discovery or just execution, UiPath offers the whole lifecycle.
From finding opportunities with process mining,
all the way through building, deploying with Maestro, and managing. For a large enterprise, having that integrated suite from one vendor can be simpler and less risky than trying to stitch together point solutions from different companies.
Okay, breadth of platform. What's the second mode?
Stickiness.
Yeah.
Pure and simple switching costs. Once a company has automated hundreds, maybe thousands, of critical business processes on UiPath, ripping it out and replacing it becomes almost prohibitively complex and expensive. The platform becomes deeply embedded in their operations.
Do the numbers back that up? Customer retention?
They do. Their dollar-based gross retention is incredibly high, 98%. That means practically no one is abandoning the platform entirely.
And what about expansion? Are existing customers spending more?
That's the dollar-based net retention rate, or DBNRR. In Q2 FY26, it was 108%.
Okay, 108%. That's still positive, meaning the average customer is spending more year over year. But isn't that a bit lower than it used to be? I recall seeing higher numbers previously.
That's a sharp observation, and yes, it has moderated. It was 115% the year before. It definitely suggests that while customers are staying loyal, the current economic climate, tighter budgets, more deal scrutiny is slowing down the rate at which they expand their spending. The new Agentic tools might also not be driving massive upsells yet.
So loyalty remains, but maybe the expansion engine isn't firing on all cylinders like it once was.
That seems like a fair assessment of the DBNRR trend. It's still healthy growth, but reflecting the macro reality.
Okay, and the third moat.
External validation. You can't discount the power of industry analyst recognition. Being named the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for RPA for the 7th consecutive year is a huge stamp of approval.
7th year, that's consistent leadership.
And what's key is why Gartner ranked them highly. They were recognized as having the highest ability to execute among all the players. That tells potential customers that UiPath actually delivers on its promises, which builds trust, especially for complex AI projects.
Execution relies heavily on partners, doesn't it? Especially integrating with core enterprise systems. The SAP partnership seems crucial here.
Absolutely foundational. Their expanded alliance makes UiPath an SAP-endorsed application. This is massive because so many companies are undergoing the painful migration to SAP S/4HANA.
Right, the big ERP upgrade everyone's facing.
UiPath positions itself as essential for that. Automating processes around SAP, helping achieve a clean core, meaning minimizing customizations that make upgrades difficult. It smooths the S/4HANA journey.
And they actually use their own tech for their own SAP migration, right? Dogfooding it.
They did, working with Deloitte. They achieved a 93% clean core in their own S/4HANA implementation design. That's a powerful proof point to show customers. They're helping companies like EDF Renewables and Orica get more value from their huge SAP investments using automation.
Beyond SAP, partnerships with the big consulting firms and cloud providers must be key for scale.
Definitely. You need the global system integrators, the Deloittes, HCL Techs, Cognizants to drive those huge multi-million-dollar digital transformation projects where UiPath can play a central role. They provide the implementation muscle globally.
And Microsoft, even though Power Automate is a competitor.
It's a complex relationship, co-opetition. They're collaborating. UiPath has an Autopilot plugin for Microsoft Copilot, a connector for Copilot Studio. These integrations make UiPath work better within the Microsoft ecosystem, which is essential for many large enterprises. It reinforces them as a key partner for advanced automation, even alongside Microsoft's own tools.
Okay, let's pivot to the financials. Section 4. How did UiPath actually perform in its latest quarter, Q2 fiscal year 2026, ending July 31st, 2025?
Overall, it was a pretty strong quarter, demonstrating good execution. Total revenue hit $362 million. That's up a solid 14% year over year.
And the shift to cloud, is that gaining traction?
Very much so. Their cloud ARR, the annualized run rate from cloud subscriptions, topped $1.08 billion. That's a jump of 25% year over year. So customers are definitely moving to their automation cloud platform.
What about the total ARR, the key subscription metric, and new business?
Total ARR reached $1.723 billion, which is up 11% year over year. The net new ARR added in the quarter was $31 million. Now, that 11% ARR growth, like the DBNRR, is slower than the hypergrowth days around the IPO.
But the big story this quarter seemed to be profitability, right?
Exactly. The focus really shifted to operational discipline, and it paid off massively. Their non-GAAP operating income came in at $62 million.
$62 million. What does that mean in terms of margin?
It translates to a 17% non-GAAP operating margin. That's the headline number. It's a staggering improvement over 1,500 basis points, or 15 percentage points, better than the same quarter last year.
15 points of margin expansion year over year. How did they manage that?
It reflects successful restructuring efforts they undertook, much tighter cost controls, and simply leveraging their scale more effectively. The company demonstrated it can be structurally profitable now.
And that profitability flows through to cash.
It does. They generated $45 million in non-GAAP adjusted free cash flow in the quarter, and their balance sheet looks incredibly healthy. $1.52 billion in cash and equivalents, zero debt.
Strong position. Allows them to invest, return cash to shareholders.
Which they are doing. They bought back 8.3 million shares in Q2 under their $500 million buyback program at an average price around $12.10.
Okay, let's look at the customer base. Around 10,800 total customers. But in enterprise, it's the big spenders that matter most. How are they doing with larger accounts?
The focus is definitely shifting towards quality winning and growing large enterprises, and the metrics show progress there. The number of customers spending $100,000 or more annually grew to 2,432.
And the $1 million club?
Customers with ARR of $1 million or more grew to 320. This shows a re-acceleration in landing and expanding within their largest, most strategic accounts, which is a positive sign. They specifically called out winning new large logos like Henry Schein, who apparently chose UiPath because of the integrated agentic platform.
So the new tech is helping win some big deals, even if the broad upsell isn't massive yet.
It seems to be a key differentiator in competitive situations for large, complex deployments.
What about the outlook? What did management guide for the rest of the fiscal year FY26?
They gave guidance that seems, well, prudent. Full-year revenues projected between $1.571 billion and $1.576 billion. And confirming the profitability focus, they expect full-year non-GAAP operating income to be around $340 million.
Okay, solid numbers. But this brings us to that really interesting caveat from management. They've launched all this cool agentic tech, Maestro, data fabric, Autopilot, but they explicitly said these new capabilities are not expected to be a material revenue contributor in fiscal 2026.
Yeah, that statement definitely raised some eyebrows. It's a very cautious stance.
What does it signal? Is the tech not resonating? Is adoption just really slow? I mean, if it's the future, why isn't it driving revenue now?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are a few ways to read it. One, it could just be conservative guidance setting expectations low so they can beat them later. Happens all the time.
Underpromise, overdeliver.
Could be. Or two, it might be a very realistic reflection of enterprise sales cycles for brand new, complex AI technology. Companies need time to test, pilot, validate security, get comfortable with AI agents touching critical processes before signing huge checks.
So the platform might be ready, but the enterprise buyers are still kicking the tires.
Plausibly. It suggests that while the innovation is there, The bulk of the revenue this year is still coming from the established RPA business and more incremental upgrades to the existing platform, not from massive brand new agentic deployments dominating the P&L just yet. It highlights that trust barrier we talked about.
A crucial point. Okay, let's move to our final section. Section 5, looking at some key risks, starting with something quite specific. The key man risk around the founder, Daniel Dines.
Right, this is a fascinating narrative thread in the sources. It relates to the period when UiPath had a co-CEO structure. Daniel Dines brought in Rob Enslin, a very experienced exec, as co-CEO in early 2024.
And the commentary suggests that didn't quite work out as planned.
The analysis suggests that period led to some, well, fundamental stagnation was a term used, a lack of clarity or speed in strategic execution, right when the market was shifting rapidly towards AI.
Why stagnation? Was it conflicting visions?
The implication is that driving a massive technological pivot, like the move to agentic automation, requires an almost singular, intense focus, a maniacal focus, as one source put it, attributed to Dines. The co-CEO structure, perhaps, diluted that focus at a critical juncture.
So the theory is things only really got back on track. The agentic solutions launched clearly. The financials turned around dramatically after Dines returned to the sole CEO role.
That's the narrative presented. Dines takes back the sole reins. Strategic clarity returns. Operational discipline tightens up, reflected in that big jump in profitability and positive free cash flow, and the agentic push accelerates. It underscores how critical founder leadership can sometimes be during major transformations.
Beyond the internal leadership dynamics, what about external pressures, macroeconomic and execution risks?
The macro environment is definitely still a headwind. Global IT spending growth slowed down. Projections for 2025 are around 4.3%, much lower than the 8.6% in 2023.
And tighter IT budgets mean?
Longer sales cycles,
Yeah.
more scrutiny on deals, big projects potentially broken into smaller phases or delayed. That directly impacts how quickly they can grow that net new ARR figure.
But isn't there a counter-argument? When times are tough, companies look for savings. Doesn't automation become more attractive?
That's the powerful counterpoint. UiPath's core value proposition is cost savings and efficiency, delivering ROI of 30% to 50% on automated processes. So while budget holders are cautious, the demand for solutions that demonstrably cut costs remains strong. Some analysts call it potentially recession-proof demand, at least for the core ROI-driven automation.
So maybe slower growth, but resilient underlying demand.
That seems to be the dynamic. There's also execution risk in just scaling this complex technology. Moving into new industries like agriculture or energy requires tailoring solutions, which strains R&D and sales resources. It's complex to execute globally.
And finally, the ever-present risk with AI, data privacy, and security, especially with regulations like GDPR.
This is arguably the biggest hurdle for widespread agentic adoption in sensitive industries. Training AI on large, potentially sensitive enterprise datasets inherently creates risk.
Right.
Data leaks, accidental exposure, misuse. The potential liability under GDPR is massive.
How is UiPath trying to mitigate that? What are they doing proactively on the platform?
They're integrating specialized security tooling. Specifically, the sources mention using Rico AI tools to enhance security, particularly around unstructured data within their cloud platform.
Reco AI, how does that help?
Rico AI essentially maps out how data is being accessed and used. It builds a real-time interaction graph, who's touching what sensitive data, when, from where, why.
Creating context around data usage.
Exactly. By understanding the normal patterns of data interaction, it can automatically detect anomalies, unusual access patterns, large data movements that might indicate a potential breach or insider threat before data actually leaves.
So it's like an automated data watchdog.
Kind of. It helps automate the monitoring and enforcement of data governance policies, reducing the risk of accidental or malicious data exfiltration, and significantly easing the compliance burden for security teams trying to manage GDPR across these complex AI-driven workflows. It's about building trust through proactive security.
Okay, this has been a really comprehensive look. Let's try to summarize the key threads of this deep dive. UiPath clearly made a major and seemingly successful pivot from just RPA to this broader vision of agentic automation.
Yeah, underpinned by significant new tech like Maestro for orchestrating AI, bots, and humans, and Data Fabric providing that crucial, secure data context with its zero-copy approach.
Financially, they showed real resilience in Q2, hitting that impressive 17% operating margin, proving they can be profitable while investing in innovation.
And while overall growth is moderated from the peak years, they are seeing renewed momentum with their largest enterprise customers. suggesting the new platform is resonating at the high end despite the macro pressures and maybe some past leadership wobbles.
So the biggest takeaway for you listening to this is probably this fundamental shift in philosophy. The future, according to UiPath, isn't AI or RPA, it's AI and RPA, working together under tight control.
They're betting that their strong foundation in deterministic automation, the reliable robots, the governance, the orchestration layer, is actually the most critical piece for deploying AI safely and effectively in complex, regulated enterprises. It's about trusted, controlled agency.
Which leads us to that final provocative thought. The original idea behind RPA was automating clicks, simple tasks. The new idea, the agentic hypothesis, is much bigger. Automating core business processes, unlocking unstructured data, fundamentally changing how work gets done.
So if this agentic strategy really pays off in the long run, UiPath won't just be an automation tool vendor. They could become something closer to the operating system for the future enterprise.
And the question that leaves us with is this. If AI agents are the brains doing the complex thinking and planning, how much of the long-term value gets captured by the company that provides the nervous system, that essential layer of orchestration, governance, and trust that connects the brains to the real-world actions in a secure, controlled way? Where does the ultimate power and profit reside in that future?
A profound question indeed. Who owns the control layer in the age of intelligent automation? Something to think about.